Aries, your first house identity architecture launches directly into cataclysmic structural meltdown as Saturn deploys complete ecosystem demolition, where every layer of superficial ego fluff, inconsistent self-start patterns, scattered personal presentation mechanisms, impulsive decision-making programming, fragile self-image constructs, approval-seeking behavioral loops, energy-leaking relational habits, and execution gap personality disorders gets systematically ripped apart like nuclear-grade demolition equipment, shredding tissue paper infrastructure. No more charming existential identity crises into temporary submission, papering execution gaps with raw charisma deployment, cycling endlessly through abandoned initiatives disguised as learning experiences, evading personal command responsibility through external blame cycles, or maintaining fragile self-concepts through validation addiction. Your physical body catapults into grueling endurance laboratory testing through systematic habit reconstruction protocols, boundary enforcement boot camps under combat conditions, digital avatar complete rebuild engineering, core directive recalibration under fire, daily discipline rituals engineered to shatter 99% human constitutions, physical presence authority claiming through territorial dominance training, and personal brand weaponization through consistent execution demonstration that silences all doubters permanently. Saturn demands absolute space, claiming without apology or explanation. Consistent personal command construction through microscopic daily execution victories, compounding into exponential authority, authentic leadership authority, forging immune to external validation fluctuations, pressure testing scenarios, competitor sabotage attempts, or crisis amplification. Classic impulsive warrior archetype either catapults through 2026's relentless ceiling-shattering gauntlet into disciplined sovereign status, capable of sustaining decade-long momentum through market apocalypse, marshaling scattered resources through total chaos domination, commanding universal respect through demonstrated reliability patterns rather than sporadic brilliance flashes, or devolves into self-sabotaging dreamer archetype watching prime territory, partnerships, opportunities evaporate, while disciplined competitors systematically capitalize on your inconsistency patterns like military precision strikes, weak self-concepts, approval addiction behaviors, energy drainage relational patterns, execution evasion mechanisms, and identity incoherence syndromes dissolve through chemical-grade exposure, leaving only battle-hardened power architecture like quenched Damascus steel. This becomes personal command center, reconstruction war where half measures guarantee permanent second-place irrelevance across personal domains, while full-spectrum commitment unlocks unfair first-mover dominance, supremacy across personal, professional, public, financial, relational landscapes. Your identity transforms into weaponized architecture supremacy or forgotten historical wreckage. Taurus, 12th house shadow realm, catapults into nuclear-grade karmic excavation theater, violently excavating hidden enemies. Secret debts compounding invisibly, subconscious sabotage programming running autonomously, energy vampires operating undetected, ancestral curse inheritance systems, self-undoing behavioral cycles, repeating eternally, psychological landmine arrays, invisible loyalty contracts binding progress, and generational trauma download mechanisms. No more hiding behind material comfort illusion matrices, maintaining plausible deniability about unseen limitation architectures systematically derailing empire expansion, pretending energy drainage patterns represent normal fatigue, or evading shadow confrontation through material accumulation, distraction protocols. Saturn enforces mandatory isolation periods, resembling corporate apocalypse retreats from existential hell. Precision engineered for genuine self-audit excavation, where victim mentality programming gets incinerated layer by excruciating layer during extended, silent processing marathons while systematically dissolving ghost pattern architectures, inherited trauma script libraries, psychological landmine configurations, energy drainage system complexes, subconscious betrayal mechanisms, and invisible allegiance contracts blocking material empire scaling. Karmic cleanup demands unflinching confrontation with shadow programming totality, generational baggage download complete neutralization, self-sabotage, tripwire disarming, invisible loyalty contract termination, ancestral pattern reverse engineering, and energy leakage architecture reconstruction. Before authentic material security, scaling activates. Master invisible foundation domains through disciplined solitude protocol deployment, psychological excavation, deep core operations, energy hygiene system engineering, boundary reconnaissance missions, under combat conditions, shadow integration, alchemy laboratories, or remain eternally chained to leaking energy pattern cascades, recurring defeat. Cycle automation, subconscious programming, neutralization of every external victory before materialization completes. Hidden Realm transforms from career kryptonite weaponization into unfair advantage architecture supremacy when governed through surgical precision mastery. Properly architected shadows construct impenetrable competitive moats, energetic fortresses, subconscious advantage platforms, while untamed shadow domains guarantee spectacular empire collapse cascades originating from internal betrayal systems. Gemini, 11th house social infrastructure catapults into complete ruthless tribe restructuring warfare as Saturn deploys industrial-grade pruning shears through fake friend infiltration networks, weak alliance fragility points, vague collective dream abstraction clouds, superficial network gamesmanship operations, opportunistic hanger-on parasites, low-caliber connection deadweight, vision without execution collectives, and charm-dependent social positioning. Only high-caliber, results-driven, execution-proven networks survive merciless cull, while charm-based relationship matrices evaporate overnight through structural incompatibility. Long-term goals face unrelenting concrete reality stress-testing gauntlets, where clever positioning rhetoric proves completely worthless vapor and pure execution. Supremacy becomes undisputed king through demonstrated delivery patterns. Scattered social butterfly connection webs harden into accountable inner circle fortresses, where superficial wit deployment fails catastrophically and delivery consistency rules through iron metrics. Group projects, community leadership initiatives, collective vision engineering operations, social capital weaponization programs, and network value extraction demand genuine execution deployment, strategic delegation frameworks, boundary enforcement architectures, measurable contribution tracking systems, accountability cascade engineering. No coasting on sparkling presentation theater when results define relevance, inclusion status, resource allocation, leadership positioning permanently. Saturn forces social capital reconstruction brick by excruciating brick through disciplined network engineering mastery, accountability architecture deployment, vision concretization protocols. Leadership through results demonstration systems, lead through proven execution pattern supremacy, resource marshaling dominance, boundary enforcement weaponization, or face permanent exclusion from meaningful tribes, opportunity pipeline architectures, collective advancement platforms, high-value connection matrices. Social empire transforms into precision-engineered competitive weapon supremacy or collapses into irrelevant social noise static. Cancer 10th house career pinnacle triggers complete professional crucifixion sequence activation, followed by authority resurrection ritual deployment. Under maximum pressure conditions, public reputation architectures constructed on emotional appeal manipulation, family protection, instinct programming, soft skills charisma deployment, relational caretaking positioning, or feel-good metric illusions collapse completely under Saturn's results-only tribunal jurisdiction, where emotional reasoning evaporates. Relationship leverage proves worthless, and structural delivery execution determines survival destiny. Step up to executive authority supremacy through measurable output engineering, team systemization mastery, strategic positioning dominance, visible execution weaponization, or sink into permanent professional obscurity, black hole with zero recovery trajectory. Massive responsibility catapults, mid-2026, like precision-guided ordnance deployment. Forging legacy-defining leadership architectures through sustained grind marathon endurance, boundary enforcement against chronic savior complex traps, private emotional roots, maintenance engineering, relentless result demonstration cycles while resisting emotional exhaustion pattern cascades, imposter syndrome reactivation, authority dilution through people-pleasing relapses. Emotional caretaking programming transforms into executive command structure supremacy. Earn professional crown through execution marathon supremacy, team systemization dominance. Visible authority, construction engineering, boundary mastery weaponization while maintaining internal sovereignty fortress. Career altar reconstruction proceeds stone by disciplined stone through crisis navigation mastery, responsibility embrace weaponization, authority embodiment engineering. Imposter syndrome eradicated permanently. Leadership legend constructed through execution proof. Professional destiny seized through iron will deployment supremacy. Leo. Ninth house belief system. Architectures endure complete philosophical demolition in Derby activation, where comfortable truth matrices, borrowed wisdom system downloads, ego-driven philosophy constructs, dramatic certainty display mechanisms, inspirational platitude deployments, and performative insight theater all shatter violently under raw experiential pressure gauntlets. No coasting on inherited dogmas, performative worldview presentations, or theatrical certainty displays when Saturn demands battle-tested wisdom extraction through lived crucible processing. Saturn blocks expansion pathways through systematic travel restriction enforcement, guru integrity stress test tribunals, legal reality gauntlet navigation, financial discipline enforcement protocols, publishing accountability engineering, teaching credential verification systems, philosophical positioning, reality audits, global vision authority mastery, higher learning dominance engineering, worldview architecture supremacy demand, ironclad execution, discipline deployment, cross-cultural navigation competence, weaponization, rigorous study commitment to engineering, earned perspective crystallization. Protocols rather than dramatic flare deployment theater. Wisdom authority emerges exclusively through real-world application scar tissue accumulation, rather than inspirational speech circuit operations. Master structured truth-seeking supremacy through systematic research dominance. Adversarial debate, training weaponization, experiential immersion engineering, cross-disciplinary synthesis mastery. Or drift permanently philosophically irrelevant amid global information chaos weaponization while disciplined competitors weaponize structured insight architectures into dominance platforms. Big picture mastery forges exclusively from disciplined fragmentation processing engineering. Worldview transforms into unbreakable strategic architecture supremacy or decorative philosophical rubble. Virgo. Eighth house power vault detonates into comprehensive financial inquisition, tribunal activation, intimacy restructuring, laboratory deployment, crisis alchemy foundry engineering, power dynamic battlefield operations, shared resource weaponization programs. Shared resources face merciless debt collection orchestration mastery, investment portfolio pressure testing gauntlet engineering, psychological contract renegotiation warfare. Boundary enforcement campaign deployment, inheritance reckoning tribunal activation, tax authority showdown engineering, venture capital reality audit systems. Weak partnership configurations, lopsided power dynamic architectures, hidden liability matrices, emotional leverage manipulation systems, dependency programming cascades exposed spectacularly through controlled crisis engineering protocols. Saturn transforms analytical helping pattern programming into deep-state financial mastery architecture supremacy. Crisis becomes systematic crisis capital conversion weaponization. When power dynamics harden through disciplined transformation framework, deployment, risk assessment, mastery engineering, resource reclamation strategy dominance. Alchemical positioning supremacy. Analytical detachment weaponizes into crisis navigation dominance across financial, psychological, intimacy crisis domains. Deep power architects through execution supremacy, not merely analyzed through observation paralysis. Power vault transforms into impenetrable fortress supremacy or leaking liability catastrophe. Libra. Seventh house partnerships. Storm legal arena combat zone activation where marriage contracts, business alliances, collaborative venture architectures, open enemy positioning matrices, strategic opponent configurations, and one-on-one power dynamics face unrelenting structural reality gauntlet engineering of maximum severity. Imbalanced relationship configurations, vague commitment mechanisms masquerading as understanding, diplomatic evasion programming rooted in conflict avoidance, chronic people-pleasing compromise cascades compromising personal sovereignty, charm-based arrangement illusions built on superficial harmony all dissolve catastrophically under equality enforcement weaponization, execution accountability supremacy, and structural compatibility, tribunal judgment. Saturn demands contractual clarity deployment, mastery through ironclad legal frameworks, boundary definition enforcement, engineering via non-negotiable operational parameters, mutual accountability architecture dominance, eliminating free-rider dynamics, role specification, weaponization, preventing scope creep disasters, delivery synchronization, supremacy replacing emotional reasoning with measurable outputs, superficial harmony maintenance. Theater collapses permanently while authentic strategic diplomacy sharpens lethally through sustained pressure-testing gauntlets, high-stakes negotiation discipline training under adversarial conditions, competitive positioning mastery against open enemies, alliance-hardening protocols tested through betrayal scenarios. Power balancing architectures replace chronic people-pleasing programming cascades entirely. Committed partnership configurations strengthen exponentially through defined operational framework deployment, legal architecture, reinforcement, eliminating ambiguity loopholes. Execution accountability systems, tracking contribution disparities, boundary supremacy protocols rejecting one-sided sacrifices while situational alliances burn completely away through structural incompatibility, auto-termination. Relationship architecture transforms from existential vulnerability exposure into competitive advantage weaponization. No sacrificing personal power for temporary relational peace when structured equality generates exponential compound returns across emotional, financial, professional partnership domains. Your partnership empire either crystallizes into precision-engineered competitive weapon supremacy, generating unfair dominance, or collapses into relationship rubble wasteland of broken contracts and exploited goodwill. Every alliance becomes calculated architecture or collateral damage. Scorpio. Sixth house. Daily operations trigger comprehensive operational purge apocalypse. Endurance blacksmithing marathon under combat conditions, workflow engineering bootcamp from hell, service delivery revolution through fire, and employee management tribunal activation. Inefficient work system architectures, health routine failure cascades, service delivery bottleneck configurations, employee performance gap matrices, operational friction point concentrations, and daily grind mediocrity patterns collapse systematically under repetition, discipline tyranny. Process optimization mandates of surgical precision, execution accountability engineering, eliminating excuses, master specialized craft domain supremacy through relentless friction cycle deployment, continuous refinement protocol weaponization, systems engineering mastery, creating unfair efficiency moats, quality control architecture dominance, or burnout spectacularly chasing unsustainable intensity highs without structural foundation engineering, leaving competitors untouched. Saturn demands ruthless boundary enforcement deployment, with clients demanding endless revisions, colleagues pushing workload boundaries, service recipients exploiting goodwill while building physical mental stamina reservoirs through monotonous mastery rituals resembling military basic training, workflow standardization, eliminating variability waste, quality control systems rejecting substandard output, endurance architecture construction turning pain into performance advantage, daily friction transmutes into unbreakable work ethic supremacy generating compounding returns. Service transforms from dramatic intensity display theater into structural dominance, architecture where competitors shatter first under sustained operational pressure, while your systems scale effortlessly. Grind becomes most unfair competitive advantage when weaponized through automation supremacy, delegation architecture, process sovereignty, operational excellence compounds into total market domination supremacy across industry verticals, service categories. Professional positioning. Your daily empire either becomes efficiency fortress generating passive dominance or grind prison yielding diminishing returns. Sagittarius. Fifth house creative expression. Architecture collides violently with reality. Hammer deployment of industrial magnitude, where vanity projects lacking commercial viability, impulsive romance cycles built on chemical highs, blind speculation gambles defying risk mathematics. Dramatic flair deployments substituting substance, unstructured self-expression chaos, and artistic ego indulgence face systematic structural annihilation tribunal. Only disciplined creativity pipelines with proven audience conversion, committed romantic architectures demonstrating longevity patterns, calculated risk frameworks passing stress test scenarios, sustained artistic output pipelines generating royalties, and self-expression architectures commanding cultural authorities survive execution-only judgment. Saturn structures artistic output pipelines through sustained effort cycles compounding into legacy revenue, commits romantic connections through demonstrated reliability, patterns surviving reality stress tests, tempers wild speculation through rigorous position sizing discipline and probability engineering eliminating gambler's ruin. Wild creation matures into architectural legacy artistry dominating cultural landscapes. Dramatic genius channels systematically into innovation. Architecture supremacy where play engineering meets precision execution, creating viral phenomena. Cultural movements, industry standards rather than forgotten sketches. Creative authority demands execution proof across artistic domains, generating royalties. Romantic architectures yielding partnership equity. Speculative frameworks producing asymmetric returns. Self-expression platforms commanding premium positioning. No celebrating untapped potential when delivery metrics define immortality status across generations. Creative empire transforms into cultural cornerstone dominance, generating compound returns or remains forgotten sketchpad clutter collecting dust, while disciplined creators inherit markets. Capricorn, fourth house family foundations endure comprehensive structural inspection, engineering, emotional bedrock reconstruction laboratory, inherited pattern demolition sequence activation, domestic power base recalibration war, and generational wealth transfer tribunal. Property infrastructure failures, parental karma settlement negotiations, domestic security arrangement audits, family power dynamic restructurings, generational wealth transfer mechanisms, emotional inheritance, pattern programming surface aggressively from mandatory resolution through crisis engineering. No escaping generational weight, carrying obligations. Emotional avoidance architecture deployments. Inherited limitation programming through denial mechanisms masquerading as privacy. Saturn forges emotional authority architectures through disciplined nurturing framework deployment. Relative boundary enforcement system, engineering preventing energy drainage, property stewardship mastery creating asset appreciation, legacy reconciliation protocols, while confronting inherited limitations head-on through pattern interruption engineering, trauma neutralization systems, family system recalibration. Home base transforms from obligation sinkhole draining empire resources into power generation station fueling external dominance. When foundations harden through crisis navigation mastery, responsibility, weaponization, sovereignty engineering, domestic responsibility fuels external empire construction engines while maintaining internal sovereignty, fortress through boundary supremacy, protocols rejecting family exploitation patterns. Roots become strategic rocket fuel, generating unfair momentum when properly engineered through property optimization, emotional independence, architecture's generational pattern termination. Family foundation either crystallizes into empire launchpad supremacy, creating multi-generational dominance, or inherited anchor chain, dragging sovereign ambitions into mediocrity swamp. Aquarius, third house. Mental processing demands extreme focus, discipline, deployment engineering. communication restructuring laboratory activation, learning architecture overhaul war, intellectual positioning, recalibration tribunal, and thought leadership weaponization program. Scattered thought pattern chaos, superficial learning deployment mechanisms, lazy curiosity distraction cycles. Mental restlessness programming, unstructured idea generation lacking architecture. Face comprehensive structural reorganization engineering. Message authority mastery, writing dominance engineering, speaking supremacy weaponization, intellectual leadership positioning. Earn exclusively through rigorous practice cycle deployment. Editing discipline framework tyranny, audience accountability, system engineering, delivery optimization protocols, eliminating waste. Saturn cuts superficial sibling, local network dead weight, while engineering speaking, writing, and communication architectures into professional weapons through repetition mastery cycles, feedback loop integration, supremacy. Precision architecture deployment, impact measurement, engineering eliminating vanity metrics. Idea generation matures into authoritative transmission supremacy, dominating discourse. Mental chaos channels into precision engineering architectures where every word, concept, connection carries structural weight, generating influence, compound returns. Thought leadership battle tests across learning mastery, communication dominance, networking architecture domains. Mental empire transforms into dominant architecture, generating cultural shifts or scattered static noise disappearing into information oblivion. Pisces, second house wealth architecture confronts comprehensive value reckoning, tribunal activation, income stress testing gauntlet engineering, possession reality audit sequence deployment, financial sovereignty weaponization program, and money mastery dominance laboratory. Fantasy spending pattern programming, unclear self-worth valuation frameworks, unstable revenue architecture cascades, mystical money bypass mechanisms, pretending poverty equals spirituality, possession, disorganization, chaos, face unrelenting practical ownership, gauntlet engineering. No spiritual bypass permitted around material accountability, tyranny, execution, discipline, enforcement. Wealth generation, reality confrontation, eliminating manifestation delusions. Saturn builds sustainable financial security architectures through disciplined earning spending framework. Deployment, intrinsic value clarification, engineering, eliminating imposter pricing, possession stewardship system, mastery creating asset appreciation, revenue diversification, architecture dominance, money mastery weaponization, transforming vague resource into empire foundation, rather than spiritual distraction. Material reality anchors spiritual flow permanently through execution supremacy. Wealth transforms from dream currency fantasy into empire foundation, cornerstone generating compound returns across income streams, asset classes, self-valuation matrices. Financial sovereignty demands relentless execution supremacy across income engineering, asset optimization, self-worth weaponization domains. Money mastery either becomes power multiplier supremacy generating generational dominance or remains fantasy limitation chain binding. Spiritual potential to material poverty, reality forever.